Welcome to Ask the Pastors Family Edition. So I'm here with Pastor Brad and Pastor Tim, and we are going to talk about all things family during this pandemic. Hey guys, before we get started, I wanted to just talk for a minute about the sermon series that we're in. I know that you are tracking along, and as you've been reading through and thinking through these passages from Matthew and the Sermon on the Mount, what has really jumped out at you, or what is something that maybe in the past has been a focus for you from this passage? So we'll start with you, Brad.
Well, I think where Pastor Ryan left it this past Sunday with Jesus' own words, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribe and the Pharisees. And then he's going to go throughout and sort of turn the apple cart over on the thinking of the time and what those people who were thinking they were being really meticulous in the law and adding to it all that God said, he's going to show that Jesus is going to show that they had missed the spirit of what the law had to say. Right. And so really contemplating, trying to put myself, drop myself into that world to hear how those words would have stung the audience, and really make them question whether or not that's even possible. And then the beautiful gospel shines brightest when we're in the darkest place. So just realizing that, I'd say that's one thing.
Yeah. Thanks. Tim, how about you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that really hit me in this passage, and I think we talked about it in one of the previous weeks, was Dr. Martin Lloyd Jones's quote. That idea of get this away from me, like I'm wrecked by it, and just again, like working through it these past number of weeks, seeing how Jesus is dealing with those around him, exposing the kind of underlying pride that resides in me, and thinking, I got this. And then we come face to face with some of those passages, and you kind of realize, good night, I fall so far short. But also, I know where this is going as well. Like I've read the Sermon on the Mount before. I know what he's going to be getting into, right. And just seeing how Christ goes after the heart. He doesn't care about the ritual, right? You can go through the motions, but he wants the heart. And just thinking about that, thinking about how I'm interacting with that, how I engage with him myself, has been something that's just been hitting home. And it's been interesting because I've been working through a study on Malachi with our students on Wednesday nights, and we're looking at that same reality, how God wants heart, not just ritual. And that's just been a challenge to go through that and work through it again and again, kind of being hit upside the head by it. But I praise God. He's doing a work. So I'm grateful.
Yeah.
And I would just say, even with this being, on family ministry, as a parent, the call of a parent is to get to the heart of the child, not just in their outward behavior, because these Pharisees, they had the rituals down, as Tim was saying, even during the time of Malachi. They were continuing all these rituals, but yet they were far from the Lord. And so in this family edition, thinking about trying to connect to the heart of the child, connect the gospel to the heart of the child. And let me just be extremely candid. That's easy to say.
Yes.
There's a much harder thing to do.
Oh,
and fail over and over. And we'll talk about that today, I'm sure, because it has been a day.
Yeah.
In the household.
Yeah.
But remembering that and striving to that for sure.
And I can speak to, having children that are a little bit older than your children. It doesn't end and the training continues.
What, Stephanie?
I know. I'm sorry. It gets different. But that training continues, and that speaking to the heart and teaching to the heart, and everything that you're doing in these younger years, it lays the foundation. And as they get older, it's different, because you can look back to what you've taught them, and you can build on that. But even if people are at a place right now where they look back and they think, oh, I didn't have that training when they were younger, I didn't know, and I didn't use these things, it's never too late to get started, and it's never too late to take what we're learning in scripture and to begin to apply that at home. And ultimately, we want to see that heart change. We want to see the behavior change on a daily basis, but we want to know that it's coming from the heart. So all right, well, let me jump into some questions that we have here, and they are about your kids. And Brad, just get yourself ready for what you need to share with us, because I know you've had a rough day. So tell us about your kids. How are they dealing with what's going on and all the changes that have happened in their little lives? So
just to review, we have a 12-year-old preteen
yes,
in the house, and then a 4-year-old lively little girl.
Yes.
And then 2 1-year-olds.
2 1-year-olds.
Foster daughter, and then my son Charlie. Mm-hmm. And so the babies, they don't know anything's different, I don't think. Right. They're enjoying life, you know, as babies do. And but the 4-year-old has mentioned a couple of times the desire to see grandparents. Now, we don't have grandparents that live nearby, so it would not be in the normal routine of things for us to be able to do that. But the concept, the holding out hope of let's go. And I think some of that's coming from the fact that 3 of those children have had birthdays during the pandemic. Right. So those things have looked different. We had talked about traveling to Jessica's mom and having a birthday party, things of that nature. And so there's this hope, this longing, you know, within the 2 older ones for being able to travel, to be able to do that. And, you know, the thing, I think they're a microcosm of the adults in the house, which are me and my wife, right? We were getting ready. We're getting ready to celebrate our 15th wedding anniversary, and we had big grand plans of doing an Alaska cruise and in August, and it looks like that thing's not gonna, you know, set sail. So so setting our hope, trying to demonstrate to our kids that, you know, that we're setting our hope in that way. But yeah, you know, they see that it's affecting all of us in our household, you know. And the things we're going through do affect even the infants. So taking note of that, you know, they're feeding off of us. They're sensing those things, the stress that's occurring. And it's been a stressful day in the Canaletto household today. So yeah. And it just gets compounded with, you know, the uncertainty and just trying to make those plans, but not knowing what is ahead. And so, yeah, I get that. How about for you, Tim? You're 3. Tell us the ages again, just to remind us.
Yeah, so Emma is 7, getting ready to turn 8, which is insane. Caleb is 6, and Maddie is 3. And all of them are high energy. They love to run and play together, which is great, and that's been a godsend in many ways. But at the same time, with as high energy as they are and as rambunctious as they are, and as strong-willed and determined as each and every one of them are.
Wonder where that came from.
I know, right? But they can butt heads, and we've had some interesting moments and family discussions across this time, more than I think we've needed to in the past. I think everybody is just starting to feel the kind of that kind of cabin fever element of we're all just in each other's space the entire time. And while God has been he has been so gracious throughout the whole time, there have been several times when it's worn very, very thin. Mom and dad, dad has not always handled himself the way he needs to.
Yeah. You've been at my house.
Kind of seeing the mirror image there, both of you. Yeah.
And but again, in the midst of that, what I'm grateful for is that there have been moments where we've been able to go back, and even when when I haven't handled the situation the way I needed to, or when I've not put my emotions in check the way I should, it's given an opportunity for me to go back and to address them and to apologize and to share why the gospel is so needed, even with adults like mommy and daddy, and why we need the Lord to work in our hearts, and why we need to be working together and praying for one another, and encouraging those sort of things. And there've been a number of heart-to-hearts down through the time, but again, God's been gracious. He's been using it, so I'm grateful.
Yeah. I was thinking about while you were talking, you're two dads, and I'm a mom of 6. And for me as a mom, one element that, it should be probably kind of a relief to have my husband home every day and, have another adult present and all that. What it really does is it shakes up your routine.
Right.
So then you can have some strife between, mom and dad, and you can have an element of, that disrupted feeling. And so we've kind of been struggling through that. And I know that may be true for other couples, just kind of struggling through that different routine, that new routine. Maybe the child's going to ask dad something after they've asked moms the same thing, all of that going on. And it just adds another layer of a little bit of stress. But I think recognizing it, knowing we're all in this together, literally day after day, and just trying to have grace with one another as much as possible. I was talking to a mom the other day, and I was just saying, things may not look like you want them to, but just do what you can day after day, just keep working through it. And there are wonderful things that are coming out of this situation and experience for all of us as well, even on those difficult days, Brad.
Yeah.
I can feel it. I can understand it.
And I would just say that, I mean, my wife knows how to pinpoint me very quickly.
Yeah.
She knows how to prod my thinking. I'm one that likes to chew on topics. And she said, Brad, are we thriving during this time, or are we surviving during this time?
That's good. That's good.
And I'm a pastor, right? Responsible for children and families. And I'm going survival mode. That's what's going on right now.
Right.
This is a season of survival. And my wife's like, we need to find ways to thrive. And so I'm just speaking candidly and honestly on that. So
just
if you're out there and you're just surviving with within your house with your kids, like us on Facebook.
Give us a thumbs up. We're with you. We support you.
And on that point, right? How grateful we can be for our wives, for the ones that God has put alongside us. Because
is my husband watching? Let me look.
Good night.
Yes.
Can I get a hallelujah? Right. But but I mean, I know, like, I don't got this on my own, and I'm so thankful for my wife working through that and being gracious, and like you, Brad, kind of pinpointing stuff, help poking and prodding when because I think in a different way, but I don't say a whole lot. Like, I will ask her how she's doing. I'll ask my kids how they're doing, but rarely will I vocalize how I'm doing, because, I'm just keeping things going, keeping things moving. And there've been a number of times when Julianne's kind of stopped and been like, okay, where are you at in all of this? And it's good. It's helpful. It's healthy.
Yeah. And, on a serious note, I want to say to both of you, I've been reading some articles and different things about pastors during this time, and it makes me a little emotional. It's a struggle because you're not seeing those faces that you minister to, and that's hard. And you two are doing a great job. You're doing a great job keeping us focused on the word, and just even being here and sharing your heart. We appreciate this so much. It lets us know that God is at work in your life, just as he is in ours. And just as you are pointing us to him, we get to see that you're looking to him. So I know I like to joke around with you a lot, but we are praying for you, and we are so thankful for what you're doing. And for your wives, we're very thankful for your wives.
Amen.
So let me bring in a question quickly from our Facebook feed. It is from Seppi, and he says, when it comes to dealing with your children, which practice comes first, being patient with them or disciplining them according to the Bible? He says, I feel being patient gives them the wrong message of maybe saying of what they can do and what they can get away with. I thought that was an interesting question. So how would you answer that, Brad?
Well, I would look to the ultimate parent, and that's not Brad Canalejo, nor is that Stephanie Little, nor is that Tim Montgomery, right?
Right.
The ultimate parent is God, our Father.
Yeah.
Right. And so patience is in his nature.
Yes.
Right. He is characterized by long suffering. Mm-hmm. He's characterized by his mercy that he shows us. Right. And so that's just the natural outflowing of who he is. Mm-hmm. But yet he is also one who disciplines his children. Right. He has expectations for the way we're to live. So, I hate to sound like I'm brushing off the question if I say both. Yeah. Because it is a both and. It is mm-hmm. patiently walking alongside your child, mm-hmm. But also instructing them in the right path.
Yeah.
And so when we look at the best parent that parenting model that we find in the scripture, I would just say that we see that modeled in the way that that God interacts with Israel. Mm-hmm. Those who are constantly failing to live up to the standard, talking about the righteousness, surpassing that of the scribes and the Pharisees. Jesus with his own disciples. Yeah. God knows who we are even better than we know ourselves.
Right.
But yet he still has that long suffering with us, mm-hmm. Through calling us to obedience to him over and over and over and over again.
Right. Mm-hmm. Tim?
Yeah. And just to kind of, I'm there with you. I think it's definitely a both and because I go back to the same place, or I look at my Heavenly Father, and I'm so grateful he has been so patient with me, because without it, I don't know that I'd still be on the planet, right?
Right.
I don't know that I'd be around, but I think it's hard. It's a tricky thing as parents to kind of to do that well, right? To imitate our Father, to imitate our God, to hold those things in tension, to not permit kind of delayed obedience, or them trying to as the kid or whoever you're dealing with trying to be the one in control, to try to help them understand those boundaries and those lines, but as you say, to patiently walk with them, and even when discipline is needed, to do that in a loving way, to come alongside them, to help them understand why it's necessary. Mm-hmm. And mommy and daddy still, we love you, but this is not good, and we need to see this move in a right direction. And so helping the son or the daughter or whoever it is to understand that and walk with you and see your heart in the midst of that as a parent trying to guide them well. So
absolutely. Yeah. Janelle says that as a nanny, patience is important because their little worlds have been rocked.
They have.
And that's true for all of us who are parenting or who are involved in children's lives, is to remember, as she also points out, to be patient with them as Jesus is patient with us. Mm-hmm. I think that the patience sometimes comes into play when you have to take the time that it takes to discipline them.
Right.
You have to stop what you're doing and consider where they are and bring them to where you want them to be, according to scripture, and even sharing verses with them. I know for my 3 that are in that middle school and just starting high school age, we spent a lot of time yesterday in Colossians and talking about everything that we're doing during this time, whether it is bringing honor to God or it is seeking self. And I shared with them some areas of my own life where I need to work. And I gave them some real examples of places that I have struggled and am struggling. And it took a lot of time. And, we were supposed to be schooling during that time. But to me, this is the greatest lesson that they could learn. So the patience comes into play with taking that time to work with them, because right now everything is so different. And I think that, as we can spend time teaching them, that will have a great effect for us when life gets busier and when things change, and we can kind of lay some foundation work right now too. So yeah, that was a great question. Okay, so in thinking about all of this, are there some resources that you could recommend for helping our kids as they struggle, with maybe behavior, understanding, or you can just tell that they're struggling? Is there something that you would recommend sharing with them? Tim.
Okay.
I thought maybe you'd just jump in, but I'll call on you.
Okay. So I think where my kids are at, they're still at those very young ages, and so we sometimes have utilized, like I think we mentioned it in weeks past, the idea of emojis or different colors that represent the characters and Inside Out. What do you feel like right now? Are you the red guy or the green guy or the yellow guy or whatever? And kind of helping them process through some of that, because as it was said, their lives have been rocked. And there's one of mine in particular who is really sensitive to those sort of things, and very very quick to, in some ways, break down, when in other ways they're incredibly resilient and strong. And so taking the time to kind of work through that with them and kind of say, okay, what's going on right now? What are you feeling? What are you dealing with? And just those simple tools of emojis, point to the one that best describes you right now, is great. And but some of the other things that I've been blessed by and encouraging our parents to engage with is a ministry called Axis, AXIS, and their website is just axis.org. And they've got some great resources. They actually put together a COVID-19 guide a couple weeks ago to just give parents info, resources, games, things that you can do with your students to make the most of this time, questions you can be asking to help get those good conversations going. And that's been a great tool as well, even as I've looked at it, thinking through, okay, how can I adapt this for the age my kids are at? And it's been really good. So Axis is a great resource, and they're doing a lot right now, even on their Facebook page, putting out videos and stuff, talking about different things. That go follow them.
And it's all free, right? I think.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's free. There's some stuff that that is at a cost because they're seeking to keep the ministry going. But you can choose how far you want to engage there.
Okay, great.
One great free resource is the Culture Translator that you can sign up for on their website. It's a weekly newsletter that's really great, packed full of helpful information. So.
Okay, and we've got their link in our feed so people can check it out there. Thanks. How about you, Brad? Anything that you could suggest as a resource that parents could use?
Well, one of the things that I'd mentioned, I was thinking about this with that question, is making sure you're feeding yourself as a parent, right? In the midst of foster care and those things that we're walking through, one of the things that we're reminded of repeatedly is that you're only able to pour out after you've sort of been filled up.
Right.
And so filling up yourself in ways, that, when there's a worldview question that comes up from your child, right?
Yeah.
Are you prepared to answer that? Have you filled up, maybe what was lacking in your knowledge of that? And if you're not there, then saying, I'm not there, let's look at this together.
Yeah.
But you mentioned this too, Stephanie, but slowing down the pace of I'm a schedule person. There's certain things that I really like to do now, whether or not those fall at particular times, but there's a routine to things. Taking the time to stop and to listen and to have those departures, divine departures, I guess, from the schedule.
Yeah.
To really to listen to the child, to listen to their emotions. One of the things in the midst of the pandemic that probably I know that I've not done as well as what I should. So note this, parents, but is listen to your child, engage them with questions.
Yeah.
You know, and if they get to the point where they don't want to answer anymore, then don't force them to answer anymore. But having walked through some grief counseling, some things like this in the past, you know, children are fearful. Children are probably grieving, not knowing if life will return to the way that it was before.
Right.
So some of those same things that we've walked through, you know, letting children speak, listening to them, not making them talk more about something than what they want to do. They're in control of that conversation.
Right.
But also, you know, looking for those opportunities are things that all of us should be thinking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are some good suggestions. And, you know, even using family movie night, you know, that you're watching a movie and you find something within that movie that you can stop and talk about and share with them. I know our family has been playing some new games, and, you know, that gives you just more of an opportunity to be together, conversation to open up, and just really looking for those opportunities and using them, like you said, to listen and as to be ready, you know, with those answers after you've used time to fill yourself up and understanding.
You know, one of the questions, Stephanie, that I have gotten, you know, from a couple of people is, you know, returning back and like mask thing and you know, how do kids do that? And well, the thing I'd say is that we should be introducing them to some of that now.
Good idea. Good idea.
Preparing them for that. So let's talk to them about it. Right. If they've been sequestered in a home where we're not wearing masks, maybe we have been out and we've been able to see masks and we understand that more, but let's talk to them about what that looks like. Maybe you're even able to drive through, you know, a grocery store parking lot and see people get out with their masks on, and you can talk to them about why that is.
Great idea.
Maybe there's fear on the side of the child about putting this mask on. So, you know, let them touch the mask, you know, let them put it on their face without putting it around their ears, you know, and then, so stages, you know, of doing that so they feel comfortable. And then, you know, having conversation with them. Why are we doing this? We're doing this because we don't want you to get sick. And this is a barrier, but we're also doing this because we love other people enough that we're saying we don't want them to get sick either. And so, helping a child sort of progress through that, and having dry runs, right? Role play this in the house, right? You know, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to put the mask on. We're not going to touch our face. You know, Tim had a great idea for middle school boys. This is like a ninja mask.
That works for my 6-year-old as well, just saying.
That'll engage them in wearing it, but don't wait until Friday.
That's a great idea.
Wednesday, before you're planning on coming back on a Sunday.
Right.
To introduce this to them. Do it now and do it in stages.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. Someone suggested have friends send pictures of themselves in their mask. Maybe we could do like a church-wide Facebook post with all of our, you know, church members in their masks so that we can see each other and recognize each other. I was in the store, you know, early on when we started wearing the mask, and I saw someone from church. She did not know it was me. And I wanted to pull my mask down and say, hey, but yes, just letting our kids see so that they can recognize that look in our eyes and all of that. That's a great suggestion. Anything else, Tim?
Well, I was just going to say, I fully agree with Brad. We got a friend of ours made up some little masks, kid size, and we just got them today. So we were introducing them to our kids and you know, talking through, because our youngest Maddie, she's like, Caleb's kind of at that point now where he's kind of like, okay, I can put this on, I can keep it on, I get it, whatever. He doesn't maybe understand all the reasoning why yet. We're still working through that, but he's okay wearing it. Maddie's like, it's on for 2 minutes and then she wants to take it off. And so trying to help her think about, no, we need to keep this on, and doing that and kind of having those dry runs is really helpful.
Yeah.
I think a great way to kind of ease us toward where we may end up needing to go. And if we get to a point and we can take the masks off, at some point, then great. And that'll be a wonderful day. But helping our kids and our families as a whole work through that so that we don't just put another level of stress on ourselves when it gets to that point. Because I don't know about you, but I'm ready for this to be done. Like the stress and all of that, the cabin fever, everything, the not for nothing, but the Zoom call fatigue, screens just aren't doing it.
You look forward to this.
Oh, so much. But just when we get to that point and we can come back together, not piling on additional stress on top of ourselves and having worked through those things, I think is a great way to move forward. And
Yeah, those are great points, great tips. Thank you. Now we've got a couple more minutes. I want to kind of switch gears and talk about when we're back together. There was a question asked about the childcare when we return to church, and this includes student ministry, that we will not be able to resume that right away. Can you give some reasoning behind that and kind of, your thoughts behind what that might look like as we return? Brad, can you tell us that for
we began thinking through the social distancing, which is a word that has been used ad nauseum now, but yet wasn't used so much before.
Right.
And so thinking about the 6-foot rule, thinking about just that concept, and how do you do that with kids?
Right?
I mean, the desire for a child to be with other children and interact with them, and then you have volunteers who are trying to police that, and so we just did not see a way in which we could have kid men as we were having kid men with these particular social distancing requirements,
right?
That we're seeking to apply to the church in the best interest of one another, and following what the government says. We're seeking to be good stewards and good community members, and do that voluntarily, because we don't think our rights are being infringed on at this point. If they were to get infringed on at some point, then things would have to change in what we were saying.
Right.
But right now we're trying to be good community members, and we think that having kids in these larger settings interact in ways that they could then take it to their own families or their grandparents. One of the things that we're blessed with, at least right now, and anecdotally from the things that I've seen, is that we're not seeing mass numbers of kids getting this, but yet we want to be cautious about the connections that they have.
Yeah. Okay. What about for students? What's your thinking behind that?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's a little bit different. We don't so much have like student care on Sunday mornings, so to speak. They come together for their small groups, and for right now, at least through phase 1 and into phase 2, we're recommending that small groups continue to meet through online mediums like Zoom and others, and some of that again is just down to the size of those groups. Like we have some of our student small groups that are more than 10 in size, and where they meet in the field house, it's pretty close quarters. We couldn't necessarily provide the social distancing requirements for all of them. So trying to think through all of that and weigh it all together. So that kind of deals with the Sunday morning small groups. The Wednesday night with a live, we're kind of looking at that and considering maybe how we could do things to ease back into that. But that's still being discussed at the moment. But for right now, just to recognize that there's a lot of unknowns still.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm honestly grateful for is the fact that because of St. Louis County's delay in kind of opening up again until May 18th, that puts us a couple of weeks behind lots of other states, lots of other cities and churches. And so we get to, in a sense, we get the benefit of being able to watch and see how these couple of weeks go, and watch where numbers and case numbers and all that sort of stuff land. And so we're watching those things carefully, and we're going to use that information as best we can when we look at resuming meeting. But I also want to be cautious. I don't want to say, hey, we're all coming back, only to have to later say, actually, you know what, we can't. I don't want to put that false hope out there or excitement and then have to pull the rug out from under it. I'd rather be cautious and build back with wisdom. So that's kind of a little bit of why we're doing what we're doing.
Okay. And I know that we have put out the survey and church members have sent those in. So all of that will come into play as we think about resuming and how we'll do that. And I know that you are meeting, and there's meetings weekly and things change weekly. And so that information will be given out, and we'll make sure that everybody knows how we're going to resume and what that will look like. But there was another question that asked, we're so sad about all the things that had to be canceled throughout the summer, camps, VBS, just the different things that have really been a part of our church life. And so I wonder, do you have anything planned over the summer for Kidsmen or for student ministry that we can look forward to, that we can be involved in? Is there anything kind of on the horizon that we should think about?
Yeah, it was a hard decision with prayer and also lots of decision makers, Judy, Sharon, myself, in the decision to cancel VBS. And because that's a big thing for Kidmin. It's a big thing for our kids. Normally, we're 200 above as far as kids go, and then 100 volunteers on that. But we also began to look at, the fact that would parents feel comfortable sending their kids to mass groups like that? Would our volunteers, many of them who are in, the high risk population, would they be interested in being in, large group settings where that social distancing, as I said previously, can occur? We just felt like June was too early for that. We have looked at maybe online ways to be able to do that. I know families are struggling to sort of stay up with keeping their kids on task for school things right now. And so we didn't think June was a time to throw families, something else to do online, screen time and those things. But yet we hope to be able to share something, whether it's, an abbreviated thing in person or online, with our families, to be able to do a semblance of something that would be Vacation Bible School during the summer. We were also able to push our older kids camp off a little bit later in the month of August. And so the intention is to continue to have that based on the knowledge that we have right now, possibly of what August will look like. So yeah, our hearts are breaking over the things that are lost. Just as meeting together, as a church family is breaking our hearts over things that are lost, but it's also driving us to something we're looking forward to in the future.
Absolutely. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, again, like Brad and the decision that they needed to make, Brad and Judy and Sharon, with regard to camp, our decision was in a sense made for us with regard to camp. The leadership of Ascend decided, for everybody's safety, it's better. And I fully agree with that decision. It was one that I was looking at and thinking, if they didn't, I was probably going to need to. And so it was hard, but I'm grateful. The Ascend camp are looking at providing online streaming options for the main sessions that we would have enjoyed while we were there on the evenings of June 25th, 26th, and 27th. And so I'm really excited about that. And I hope that we can maybe do that together. I'd love to look at ways that we could maybe come to the field house if we're allowed to at that point, if restrictions have been pulled back enough that we can do that. I'd love to do that. If not, we'll find ways to get that information out to our students. We're also still looking at providing a hot summer nights later in the summer before school returns. We had some dates in mind, but we're still kind of watching and waiting, even what school districts are planning on doing. I know that there's been discussions about potentially switching some things up for sake of schooling and doing things in the fall. So we're watching and waiting on that, but hopefully we'll be able to provide that for our students and their friends as we kind of launch back into the fall, but we'll wait and see.
Okay. And there's so much going on for kids and for students right now. There are Bible studies. There is the Wednesday Night Alive with a great Zoom after party every week. My kids are loving it. There is the Tuesday night Kidsmen activity. Oh, and there's so many ways for families to be involved and for their children to be involved. We have an upcoming food drive that families can collect the food, and the students and the children can help with that. And so there's a lot happening in the life of our church right now that children and students can be involved in. So if you're watching and you have a student or you have a younger child, go onto our website, check out the different opportunities. We'll get you those passwords and times of meeting and get you involved. It's a great time for families to use this means of communicating to get your kids involved and get them to really see what's happening within our church and be a part of that. So we invite you to do that. Okay, we've gone a little over our time, but I cannot get away without asking you a question that will just kind of dig deeper into who you are. So Brad, describe yourself as a kid, and if you could write a letter back to yourself as a student, what would you say about what your adult self is going through right now?
Little Brad was much shorter than I am now. I went through a growth spurt in between my 8th and 9th grade year where I went to have my picture made for my 9th grade yearbook photo, and even some people that I was close to that I had not seen over the summer didn't recognize me.
Oh, wow.
I mean, my glasses were gone. I had contacts, so all kinds of changes.
Wow.
But being small involved getting picked on a little bit, right?
Sure.
Of that nature. I was very studious, sort of academically driven, which kept me out of a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But thinking about what I would tell that younger self of mine, learn how to handle stress and how to handle it in a way that that is healthy, rather than that's not beneficial to you or to others. The other thing I'd say is, as much as I was focused on academics, there were other things that I did. I played trumpet in the band. You might not have known that, but baseball, basketball, these things that made me a well-rounded sort of individual. Some of those things I dropped off pretty quickly when the academic load picked up. I wish I would have kept those.
Oh, wow.
I would have spent more time to find those hobbies, those other things that maybe would have relieved some of that stress when those things come. So
absolutely. Wow. Well, a little bit about Brad.
Yeah.
So Tim, I know that was not the question that you wanted. So here's yours. What was a favorite hobby that you had as a kid? Something that you really enjoyed doing?
Oh, I think so. Well, there were several that as a kid I really enjoyed. One would have been soccer, or as we would have called it, football, right? Because it's actually a ball that you hit with a foot. But myself and my brother, we would play a lot together. We never played on teams back in Ireland because soccer is played on Sundays, usually during church hours. That's when they arrange their games. And so we, even as individuals, my brother and I both decided, you know what, church is more important. And so we would just play around in our backyard or whatever. And soccer was something that kept up right through the years, through my college years, even into my marriage with Julianne. There was guys that we would get together on Monday nights back in Ireland and go play soccer at a local field, and I enjoyed that. Climbing was another one, though. I I was a kid that loved to climb trees, especially. Even though I fell out of one when I was 9, and ended up, it was bad enough I was in hospital. You can talk to my parents about that one if you want a good story. But I still love to climb in many ways, and so I've tried to find ways to do that now. I've got some other hobbies, including woodworking and stuff now, that I don't spend really any time on because I'm usually just too busy or too cheap to go buy the wood that I need to do it. So,
Yeah.
but those are a couple of the things that I used to be involved in a lot.
All right. Okay. Well, a lot of what you talked about, you know, kids are certainly involved in today, and it's looking different for them not being able to be on those teams or to be in the band. But I think going back to kind of what you're both getting at is that those are things they can continue to do on their own and that can benefit them and help them as they grow and change. And so, as much as I would love to continue talking to you, and I know this is the highlight of Brad's day.
Oh, yeah.
We probably should end, and I want to thank you for just some great information that you've given us, some great tips, helping us to think through our return to church, but then also how to use this time for the Lord. And also thank you for being vulnerable and sharing with us that some days are just not good days. God can redeem those, and we pray that he will for you, Brad, today.
Amen.
So thank you both, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Next week, we'll have a couple of our other pastors on, and they will be talking through some different topics, and we've decided to change things up a bit. So we'll see you both in a couple of weeks. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Bye. Have a great day. Bye.